Hi there, everyone. Welcome to A Slice of Life with Kellie and John. And today we have a guest that we already talked with before, but in the meantime, he's been really busy writing his second book, Dying to Win, John Tomasko.
Hi, Kelly. How are you?
Welcome back. Good to see you. I
Yes, good.
got to see your trailer for the book, and it looks like a possible future movie too. So maybe book/movie. You have to come back when you do the film. But anyway, tell us a little bit about it. How did this come about? Dying to Win.
In the 80s, this is a true story. In the 1980s, I worked for a prestigious casino hotel in Atlantic City. I was a baccarat and blackjack dealer. At the same time that I worked there, there was a Chinese cartel that was stealing money from other hotels, and it was a baccarat scam. They needed an inside dealer to make the scam work. So, because I dealt these high action games, somebody approached me and asked me if I would be interested in doing this. It was, they would offer $20,000 and you would set up the shoe that held the cards for the game. There's 8 decks of cards on a baccarat table, and in
And it's
between
only
every game,
from is it ace to nine?
it's all 10, jack, queen, and king are all considered tens, and tens mean baccarat. It means you have nothing. Okay, tens are zeros.
You want to get to nine, is that correct?
Not right. You want to get as close as the person who gets as close to nine as possible wins the hand. There's only 3 bets on the game. It's bank, players, and tie.
And you only get 2 cards?
You get 2 cards. There is a third card rule, but in general, each hand gets 2 cards.
Okay.
Occasionally they give it. The guy who set this up was Meyer Lansky, and he set it up in the Tropicana down in Cuba. And he was a mathematical genius.
Yes.
Basically, without the third card rule, it would be a 50-50 game. And with the third card rule, it was now 49-51 to the house's advantage. And that's how they made their money. And they made their money off of 5%. If you won a bank hand, you had to pay the house 5% on what you won. And they kept track of it with little markers. And as you could pay it off anytime you wanted during the game, but when you got up to leave, you had to pay it off. And that was their money. That was their way. They just basically were the middlemen, watching everybody else's money and taking 5% off the top.
Right.
So I get approached by a person that is a normal customer of mine. She owns a Chinese restaurant in Atlantic City, and she's one of my regular players. She comes up to me and she says, "Listen, I won a lot of money at another hotel, and I got a comp for dinner. Would you like to go?" And I said, "Well, yeah, certainly." We knew each other, as friends, as acquaintances, and so we go to dinner. And she goes, "Hey, with the room, I got a suite. You want to see it?" And I was like, "Yes, I do." So we went up to the suite. And just before we went in, she says to me, "Listen, I got to show you something, and hopefully you're interested." So they open the door, and there's another Chinese woman. She's part of the cartel. Okay, they recruited Kim. Kim is the one who owns the restaurant. Inside the room was another woman. Her name was Lucy. Lucy had recruited Kim because Kim was a local and she knew dealers, knew people that dealt baccarat, and she played it. So she obviously would go and look for people that they could use. So she chose me for whatever reason. And so I walk in the room and I said, "This is my friend Lucy." And I was like, "Whoa, okay, what's going on here?" Then I look over at the table and I see they have a shoe where the cards are usually come out, when a dealer deals a card. and 8 decks of cards in their cellophane wrappers, a cut card, and what they call a player's scorecard. And basically, it tells there's three bets: players, bank, and tie on a baccarat game. And you can keep track with like a little pencil that you would use on a golf cart. You say, okay, bank, bank, bank. Oh, players, players, and you kind of, it's like flipping a coin, that kind of thing. So you're trying to figure out when it's going to switch, and people usually follow the shoe. If it's a bank hand, the last time they kind of want to go with the bank hand again, thinking that that's their luck. So they bring me over and they said, we want to show you something. They said, would you do a shuffle for us like you do at work? So I said, sure. So I opened up all the cards and I do a normal shuffle. It's just like a blackjack shuffle, except at the end of a baccarat shuffle, there's one additional thing they do. Because they change the cards completely after every baccarat game, they want to make sure that all the cards are mixed up, so they're not coming out in any kind of order.
Right.
So they call it a lace. And basically what it is there's 8 decks of cards, and you lay them on their side. You take 2 decks of cards off the front, and then intermittently you go down the other 6 decks of cards and you place these cards. It's just adding another way to mix these cards up.
Right.
But in that lace, that's the essence of the scam. Okay. So I do everything, and Lucy said, okay, now can we switch seats? She's sitting to my left, okay, while I'm doing this. And so we switch seats, and she shows me, and she has the dexterity of somebody that has dealt cards.
Has done this before.
Yeah, you could tell right away. This girl knows what she's doing. And
do they have gambling not in China, right? Do they?
They in Macau. I mean, these people they were an international group. Okay, this is a professional cartel. Okay, they had hit Macau, they had hit Las Vegas, they hit Reno, and God only knows where else. But I know of those 3. So instead of, when she did the lace, instead of intermittently placing these cards,
right,
she would open up a section in the middle of the 6 decks that are laying on the table, and she would fan out 7 cards, put them in, fan out another 7 cards, put them in right behind, right next to
knowing what they are. Does she
right.
know
So when all 2 decks are in there, now she would switch back. When she would sit in this seat, because they had this player's card and a pencil, that baccarat is the only game that has that, she would write down the numbers, a dash for a 10, and 1 through an ace was 1, and 1 through 9 for every other number. And she would write it down very quickly as she asked me to do the same thing. And so I did it. I fanned out the cards, put them in. Now she said, now deal the game to Kim. And I did. And when she got to the lace, got to the slug, pardon me, she would tell me what hand's coming up next. She goes, this is going to be a bank hand. And sure enough, it was a bank hand. She goes, next hand's going to be a player's hand. Next hand's going to be a player's hand. Next hand's going to be a bank hand. Next hand's going to be and so forth. So they were able to know about 7 to 9 hands, okay, out of this thing, because she had to make sure she was in the slug.
Right.
Now, baccarat table.
Explain what in the slug meant.
Okay, the slug of cards is the 2 decks of cards that I placed in the center of the shoe. So that's the slug. I guess I don't know what else to call it. It would just be where the information is at. She knows all the actual order of those 2 decks of cards.
Got it. Okay.
So they turned to me and they said, "Are you interested in doing this?" Now I'm looking around the suite and I'm saying to myself, "I'm getting set up here." I'm thinking because when in the '80s there were still guys, older guys that came from Las Vegas, okay, and they would tell stories about Vegas. And Vegas back then was run by a very nefarious group, and uh, they would sometimes throw this bribe or bone to a dealer and see if they would take it to make sure they were honest. And if they took it, you never saw them again. If they didn't take it, they felt comfortable that you were a reliable human being, and you're okay. So I thought that the casino was
Did they
checking out.
also expect you? And I agree with you. I think, you always, these guys should always have looked out for, it wasn't just the mob who wanted their money inside. The company they worked for made it look like that sometimes to see if the guy could be bought. Now, okay, it's one thing to say no, and that's good. We're glad he said no. But did they expect the worker to then go back to security within the company he worked for and say, "Hey, look, I was approached."
Yeah, well, my problem is I wanted to get out of the room. Two people told me,
Right.
two people told me
Yeah,
they were
worry
just
about
going
that
to rob
later.
and the last thing I wanted to say was no, knowing because they told me that, hey, this is what we're going to do, and
Right.
I didn't know about the other robberies. These people, this is just a friend of mine and who took me to dinner, so it was
And
just.
you had never heard about this kind of scam before.
I'd say it's actually it's all over the world. The only guy who knew what it was the guy from England, a pit boss from England. He came up to me and he says, you did a lace, right? And he was right on the money, he was the only person out of all the pit bosses, and there was a bunch of them in this hotel, who actually knew what had happened because he had seen it before. So I wanted to get out of the room. I said, listen, let me think about it, because this way I figured if I get out of there, at least I can make a decision on what to do. If I say no, God only knows what could have happened.
Did they offer you any numbers at this point, or
They offered $20,000 to do the shuffle the way they asked me to with
for
the
one
lace.
for one shuffle?
One time, $20,000 in cash. I would get paid at the end of my shift. They would meet me somewhere, and they would give me 20,000 in cash because
So
you couldn't
what
do it.
kind of money would they have been betting that they would have been able to give you 20 grand?
Okay, yeah, it's 20 grand was nothing to what they were doing. I assumed it was only two women involved. Okay, so I'm dealing to two women. Now, what happens is they bring in five other people. The cartel has a bunch of people. So now there's seven players. Okay, they're betting $100 because the minimum bet is $100 on the game. $100. Top bet, the maximum bet you could bet is $10,000.
Wow.
Okay, so here it is. They bet $100. Lucy's betting. Everybody's following Lucy's hand. Whatever Lucy does, boom, everybody else does. And she's betting $100, $100, $100, $100, $10,000. She'll have a stack of $2,500 chips. They're worth $500 a piece. $10,000. She'd stick it on the winning hand. They would all take their chips out of their pocket, do the same thing. $10,000. That's seven people. That's a $70,000 swing in one hand. So in the other hotels, one hotel they won seven hands. That's $490,000 in 10 minutes. Then they stand up. They all had hats on, or the girls had large purses, and they'd stand up, put all the chips in their hats and purses, stand up and just walk. Everybody would walk to a different exit. And the casino was like stunned. I mean, it happened so fast that the biggest thing was getting more chips to pay them. They had to call, there weren't enough purple chips in the rack to pay all the bets. So they had to make a call to the cage to bring more chips over, and that held the game up for about 2 minutes, till they took out the $5 chips and the $25 chips, because this is high action game. So this is the kind of money they were winning at these places. It's a substantial amount of cash. So $20,000 was nothing to them. One of the dealers, early in the scam, when they first got to Atlantic City, she got angry about that situation. Hey, you're paying me $20,000, but you walked with almost $500,000. Mm-hmm. And she said, if I get caught and they come after me, I'm going to give you up. And they killed her. They shot her. So now, of course, the police. I go to the casino manager. Let me not get ahead of myself. I go to my casino manager. I tell him, listen, I got asked to set up a game, and he goes, what's the player's name? First thing, that's important. And for him, he said, okay. He says, does anybody else know about it? I said, no, it's just me and these two people, the two women. He said, okay, do yourself a favor, do me a favor. He said, keep it that way and wait until you hear from me. Just don't say no to these people. Keep them on the hook. So I said, okay.
Did he
know
who the one woman was because she was local?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She was a regular player. They knew everything about her. She was like I said, she was a business owner. She was a comped player at the hotel.
Right.
The other woman was just, they didn't know. And that particular game, I don't know why, but the Asians love to play baccarat. It's just something that they're voracious players. They love the game. So seeing a lot of Asians on the game wasn't a problem. Right. Nobody took notice. So 3 days go by. 2 of the days I dealt baccarat, and these two women are on the game. And it's nerve-wracking. They're waiting for me to do this lace. And I can't say no because I was asked not to. And they're calling me up every day, hey, when are you going to do it? What's going on? They're calling me at my home. So, and I'm working swing shifts. So this phone starts ringing at 11 o'clock in the morning. The third night, I'm dealing blackjack. And usually you have an hour on the game and 20 minutes off. An hour, 20, that was your shift. And you do it for 10 hours. So I'm on the game for about 15 minutes, and it's 11 o'clock at night. And I get tapped on the shoulder by another dealer. And I'm tapped at the wrong time. And he said, go to the casino manager's office. So I walk in, and I said, you wanted to see me? He said, yeah, I do. He says, you're done. I said, what do you mean I'm fired? He goes, no, you're not fired. He says, you have an appointment in the morning. So he hands me a piece of paper and with an address on it. And it's right on Atlantic Avenue, just a couple blocks away from where I lived. I had a really neat apartment. I had a 3rd floor apartment, 2 blocks from the beach. And at night I saw the whole strip of the casinos. And it was really nice. It was really cool. But this particular thing. So I go to this meeting at 10 o'clock in the morning, and I get there, and it's a storefront that's closed. It looks like the windows are soaked from the inside, as if they're renovating, and they don't want anybody to see anything that's going on inside. But it did have a bell that was lit. And I checked the paper, and I'm in the right place. So I ring the bell, and this tall guy comes to the door, and he opens the door, and I said, listen, I'm supposed to be here for a meeting at 10 o'clock, but I think I'm in the wrong place. He goes, no, you're in the right place. Come with me. So we go into through another door, and inside this place is a buzz with police officers. Everybody's got a shoulder holster, a hip holster, and I'm in what they call the Division of Gaming Enforcement, the DGE. Okay, the DGE, it's their job to protect the casinos. They're undercover state police, New Jersey State Police. They work undercover. You'd never know they were a cop. They look like every other person. They even look for people that just wouldn't look like a cop. And this guy walks up and he shakes my hand. He says, "Hi, I'm Lieutenant." And he says, "We're the police, by the way," because I'm looking at everybody with their weapons. I don't know where I'm at. So he says, "Come with me." So go into a conference area, and in the room are photographs of everybody who played on my game for the last 3 nights, all across the wall. Took a picture, a headshot of everybody. It was the eye in the sky taking a picture. So here it is, all these people. They said, "So tell us the story." I just told them the story I just told you. I said, "These 2 girls approached me. One asked me for out to dinner, and I went." And then they showed me this scam. Now, the police never asked me what the scam was, which I thought was kind of weird. I would think this would be the first thing you'd want to know. But they didn't ask me that. They asked me the same thing that the girls asked me. "We need your help." They wanted me to help them to catch these people, to put them away. And I was like, I don't know. I don't want to get involved here. This is, I thought it was the casino throwing me a bone, and that's the reason I came forward. I figured, hey, I'll tell you, and it will all go away, and it's done. But it ended up being a legitimate offer. And he said, "No, no, no." He said, "This is not the casino. This is legitimate." He says, and I told him, I said, "Listen, I don't want anything to do with this. This is, you don't know these, I don't know these people. You certainly don't know them. You only know what I know, which is nothing." And, I think if they're winning that kind of money, it's enough money to get hurt. So, and they were saying, "Well, come on, it's not like the old days where people are harassed and, you can, we can protect people today." And, all these stories they're giving me. And I just was like, "Listen, I want nothing to do with this. I'll tell you whatever I know," which is pretty much what I told you already. And I'm done. So they said, "Okay, listen, just do me a favor. Don't say no to them," and then they lied to me. "We have another dealer that came forward, and he may do it and help us. And so we want to keep these people on the hook." There wasn't another dealer. They just lied to me. So the next day, the phone calls start. 11 o'clock in the morning, casino manager calls me. "Hey, how'd the meeting go yesterday? You got to help these people, get these people off the street. You got to help the cops." I could hang up my phone. The next call would be the vice president of the casino. And he would go, "Hey, I hear these people really could use your help. You'll be safe. It's not like, there's nothing to worry about here." And the next call would be the cartel, people from the cartel. Kim, the woman that I knew, who owned the restaurant, she would call me because I had her number from the date. And it was just nonstop. I could take my phone, put it in a cradle, and it would ring. And it was one of these people, the DGE, vice president, casino manager, or the Chinese. And it went on for 3 days. Now, I'm losing it. I'm working, trying to do a rehearsal. I was playing guitar, and I had a sax player. And on our days off, we would rehearse at my house, at my apartment. And my phone just would not stop ringing, And it got to the point where I lost it. And it was I wake up at 3 o'clock one afternoon. It's a Saturday afternoon. And I had taken the phone and I just put it off. I took it off the hook because there weren't cell phones at this time. There wasn't even a caller ID.
Right.
So I had the phone off the hook. I sat down, I made a cup of coffee, and I just said, oh, let me hang this phone up. I put the phone down, and it rang immediately. I mean, it was like I put it down, and it went, and I just picked it up. I was like, what? Because I had just had enough. And it was Kim, the restaurant owner. And she said, John, are you mad at me? I said, no, I'm not mad at you. I said, I've just been busy. And she said, I've been calling you all day, but your phone's been, you've had a busy signal. I said, I've been busy. She goes, when are you going to do this lace? And by that time I had had enough. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to do this and get it over with. So I tell her, okay, I'm going to be back to work on Monday night in the Baccarat pit. I'll do it then. So I hang up with her and I call the DGE and I tell this lieutenant, I said, listen, I decided I would do this. And he goes, whoa, you just can't go running off the hook like that. We need to prepare this. What are you doing? I said, what are you talking about? He says, you need to practice with these people and wear a wire.
No.
So I was like, you guys, it's getting really out of hand here. But I had already agreed to do it with the girls. So I continued. I went on with it. I wore the wire, went into a hotel room on Sunday afternoon at 4:00. And for an hour and a half, I practiced this scam with these two women. Monday night, then I go back to my apartment to get the wire taken off of me. And I said, listen, when you arrest these girls, you have to arrest me too, because I'm going to be the one hanging. I don't know that these other hotels have been robbed. I don't know that, I mean, they told me that they were robbing them, but I didn't know that, what the whole story was. So they were like, yeah, don't worry, we have it all covered. I was like, well, what does that mean? They said, well, we're not going to arrest you or them in the casino. We're going to let the whole thing play out and have you collect the $20,000 and then we'll arrest you. And I said, well, is that okay with the casino? Because, $490,000 is going to walk out the door. And is that okay with them? And they said, we're not going to tell the casino. We're going to do it and take care of it. This way we can build our case. And I said, so you're telling me you want me to rob my own casino and you're not going to tell anybody? You're not going to tell anybody who works there that this is going down? I said, I'm not going to do that. And they got really, really angry with me. They said, you got to do it this way. We got to, build a case for this. See, chips are only worth $2.50. It's the cost. That's how much it costs to make a chip. Okay. They're only worth money in the casino. Okay. They don't turn them in. They put them in their bags and they leave. So they come back later, little by little, they send other people and they turn the money back, turn the chips back into money. So by arresting these girls after they paid me outside, it makes the chips viable again. It makes them worth the $20,000. But I said, listen, what if the chips are not there when they pay me off? What do I tell the casino? Oh, the police told me it was okay to rob you. I said, I don't think they're going to go for that. So they got really, really angry with me. I said, I tell you what, I'll still do this, but because they wanted me to wear a wire on the game. I said, I'll still do this, but you're going to put the wire on me in the casino manager's office. I said, you wanted to get these people off the street? I'll help you do that. I already told you I'll do it. But you're going to do it the way I want to do it, which pissed them off. It really, really pissed them off. Because here it is, I'm a civilian kind of calling the shots, and they hated it. They just hated it. So anyway, the next night comes up. I meet them at 6:30. My shift starts at 8. They put the wire on me in the casino manager's office. And have enough time to sit and talk about what's going to go down. I go out on the table and I do the shuffle when it comes up. It works. What Lucy does is she takes this card and she writes everything down and in English. Then she says, "Hold my seat." All right. She has the card under the table with a pencil, and she's writing like this under the table on the card, and she puts the card in her purse and then says, "Hold my seat." She goes to the bathroom and she has another card with her, and she rewrites all of those numbers in Chinese characters, in very small numbers down the sides of both sides of the card. So she knows what 2 full decks of cards are, and it's written in Chinese right on the card. And she just comes back from the bathroom, puts the card on the table, and sits there, and $100, $100, $100, boom. She knows she's in this slug of cards, the 2 decks of cards, and she knows the next winning hand goes to $10,000. Boom, they win $7,000, 7 players. Next hand, they win it again, $14,000, they're up. Next hand, boom, they win it again, $21,000. All of a sudden, there's 14 seats on a baccarat table. There's
That
7
many,
seats.
huh?
Yeah,
Wow.
there's 7 seats on both sides. Remember James Bond when he goes, "My name is Bond, James Bond." He's
Yeah.
lighting the cigarette. It's that big game, that big
No,
table.
I
Okay,
didn't
but I'm
know
just
there
saying
was
for
that
people
many
that
seats. That's
yeah,
all.
for people that aren't familiar with it, that's the table that we're on. It's a
Right.
pretty big game. So the other 7 seats stand up and they take badges out. All 7 of the seats were DGE agents. And right when they stand up and they're hovering over the 7 Chinese players, and more agents come in windbreakers with DGE written in yellow on the back, and with bags and all the info to collect the evidence and do all the things that they have to do. They pull the floor people off the game, and the pit boss and everybody stands back, and they arrest all 7 players. Now I'm waiting to get arrested. They pick up all the money from each player's hand. They bag it. They picked up the card that Lucy had filled out with all the winning hands on it. What they don't pick up is the shoe. The shoe has the cards that match the card that Lucy wrote on. They leave the shoe, so they missed half of the evidence. They don't have a case without the shoe, and they didn't realize it. Jeez. And they don't arrest me. So now I'm in a really bad position. So these 7 people are looking. Who are you going to look at? How did we get arrested? They take them, they lock them up. They take them, actually, they put handcuffs on them. They walk them out of the casino. The next day, I go back to work. No problems. Next day, no problems. The 3rd night, I'm off. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm off. And my phone rings at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I pick it up, and it's Kim, the restaurant owner. And I said, she goes, "John, what happened? I thought we were going to make a lot of money together." And I said, "Where are you?" And she goes, "I'm home." So I hung up the phone, and I ran into my living room, and I found the DGE's number, and I called them. I mean, these people were out on the street already. And now I feel like I'm in trouble here. I mean, I don't know anybody. So I called the DGE, and the guy that put the wire on me, he comes to my house immediately, and he sitting there. He goes, "Tell me what happened." So I tell him the whole story. She called me. He said nobody was ever supposed to contact me again. And here it is. She's talking to me. They're on the street already. You people haven't talked to me at all since this went down. What's going on? And they said, well, let's wait till the lieutenant gets here. So the lieutenant, he's the guy who was supposed to arrest me. So he already lied to me now twice. He knew that there were going to be 7 players on the game from the other 3 because they had films for the other 3 casinos. They didn't know how the scam operated until I showed them. Otherwise, they would have nothing. So now they have all this information, and all the girls and everybody on the table. They also had a language barrier because they told everybody when they got there. They said when they arrested them, put your hands on the table. Half of them did, and half of them didn't understand. And once they saw what everybody else did, they did it. So there was a language barrier on top of this. So I was like, what is going on? So they said, don't worry about it. We got it all covered. Don't worry about anything.
Don't worry. The famous last words. Don't worry about it.
Oh, my God. So they leave my place and they go to Kim's house. And they knock on her door. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. They're loudly banging on her door. And she opens the door. She's like, and they come on her, and we thought we told you not to contact anybody involved with the scam. And she goes, I didn't. What are you talking about?
Uh-huh.
And the cop realized what he just did. She thought she got arrested because of the other 3 games. She didn't know. My name never came up during the interrogations. The cops just gave my name to her. Now she knows that I set them up. And now he realized, the cop realized what he did. And it was a rookie mistake, but he did it. He said, and John said he's going to testify against you and you're going to go to jail for the rest of your life. He says, if you don't flip on the other players, on the rest of the people in the cartel, if you don't flip, you're going to jail for the rest of your life. And this woman was a mess. She was a total wreck. So they said, listen, get your act together, be in my office at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, and we're going to have you make a statement. And we want you to tell us everybody's name and what went down and how it went down and be a witness for us. So when they leave, she calls Lucy and tells Lucy, John's going to testify against us. So now the cartel knows everything. The police know nothing. And I'm in the middle. So the next day, after I get this phone call, I said, I had enough of this. So I went to the hotel at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm walking in and I'm going to the casino manager's office. I'm going to resign. I said, I'm out of here. These people are crazy. I said, I had enough of this. So I'm walking down and I see a shift manager from the day shift who I know. And he comes up to me and he says, well, you're here early. What's going on? And I said, well, I'm here to resign. I said, I got a call from last night from one of the people on the scam. And there's 6 other people running around that I don't know where they are. And, and I feel really compromised. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm done. I'm getting out of here. And he said, because he thought they were going to need me again. So he's trying to protect the casino. He said, don't quit. Don't quit. He said, I'll tell you what, why don't you take a leave of absence? He says, you can just turn around right now. I'll take care of everything. Just leave and go home. Just get out of here. Wherever you're going, go. And he says, you're still on the payroll. We'll pay you. He said, just get out of here. So I do. I said, okay, I'll take the leave of absence. I get in the car. I go home and I pack. And the following morning, I get in my car and I drive 2 hours north to where my mom lived in North Jersey, in North Arlington, right by Secaucus. And I walk in and the phone's ringing. So my mom's in the kitchen. So I pick up the phone and it's the lieutenant, this guy who's set me up. And he goes, "Hey, you got to get that message off of your answering machine." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Before I left, not thinking I'm going to be away for a while, I left a message on my machine saying, 'Hi, this is John. I'm going to be away in case you need me. Call this number.'"
Oh, jeez.
And I left my mother's number. I wasn't thinking. I mean, it was a mistake on my part. But who would think? So he goes, "You got to get this number off." I said, "Well, what's the big deal with my number?" He said, "I just got a call from the Atlantic City Police Department, and they just pulled Kim's body out of the Brigantine Bay. Somebody
Oh
killed
my
him."
God.
Oh, well.
So this,
Okay, wait, now, wait. Now, I don't want you giving up your whole story here
okay,
on your
well,
book.
okay,
I want people
That's
to buy
true.
the
Yeah, people
book.
need to buy the book.
Yeah,
All my
yeah.
at the
okay.
yeah,
Yeah, okay, okay. So we definitely got that it is a true thriller.
dangerous.
Um, do you plan to do readings or anything? Are you gonna?
I would, John. I'm in Florida here,
I
and
know, but let me, all I can say is this, and granted, we're in April now, but and your market might have been the snowbirds who are splitting or have split already. But the old saying from up here in those of us from North Jersey, uh, in Hudson, half of Hudson and Bergen County, if they didn't move to the Jersey Shore, they moved to Florida.
it's true.
So there you are. I mean, there you are. So,
How do you set them up?
oh, well, okay. I don't know if everybody on your
We'll talk about it
on the
later.
podcast, but yeah, I mean, I would be happy to tell you how I did it, and even though it was a few years ago, several years ago, here's the problem, and this I don't mind talking about on a podcast. I'm sure we spoke about it with other writers. I've done since 2012. I've done tours across the country and up and down to Florida. And with each tour, I found less, and this is crossing the country. The first time I crossed the country, I might have done over 30 independent bookstores, not counting libraries, book clubs, blah, blah, blah. Independent bookstores.
Okay.
The next year, let's just say there were 22. The following year, there were 18. And I found the same thing when I did Florida. Uh, I think it was around 2014 or something around there. And then when As Long as I Have Lips was coming out, I planned a cross country trip, so I booked all that. Plus, I was going to go down to Florida, and it was going to be that perfect time, like end of November to end of December.
Right, right
You
before,
know,
right before
exactly.
hurricane
So
season.
and then there's another great time down there. It's right after New Year's. Everybody from North comes down there too. It was all booked. Problem was, uh, COVID hit at that. That was when, and so all my tour plans went down the tubes. Okay. So, but what I also noticed was I went back to my records for 2014 or whatever it was when I did Florida, and I contacted those stores. If I did 14 bookstores, I'd be I and this is going back to 2020 now. Okay. When yeah, 19 or so, whatever it was. 2020. Yeah. March to April 2020. I would be amazed if I found that 4 or 5 of those independent bookstores still existed. So there is that problem.
Yeah, it's either I looked into some of the things. Like Barnes and Noble would be they don't want anything to do with us. Uh,
Correct.
because
And you'll lose,
we
an
publish a different.
independent author will lose money going to Barnes and Noble.
Correct.
Okay,
So
so the best place for you to look, and technically it will provide you the best amount of return, is a public library. If you go to a bookstore, the bookstore is going to want 40% of the sale of your books. You're going to bring your books there. They're going to check them out at the counter. But technically, you're paying for the rent of being able to stand there and speak.
right,
So they get 40%. A library wants you to come in. They have a reason to want to bring people in. Okay. And they will advertise, even though hopefully you will too, they will advertise that you're going to be there, and they don't take a percentage. The most a library ever wanted was a book for their shelves, and some libraries have a book fair at the end of the year. Would you mind signing a book so that we could sell it at the end of the year? Absolutely.
absolutely, sure,
So libraries are good. Book clubs are good. And you're down there, there's a slew of book clubs. Okay, what you got to do is get your book on their roster so that all the people in the group will get your book and read it, and and then you show up at the end of the month to do a reading from the book and then answer questions. You have a room full of people who've read
sure,
your book. They
sure,
all they all can talk to you about it. That's pretty cool. And technically, the majority of them bought a copy of your book. If they unless they bought the ebook, fine, they bought the ebook.
right.
But and they'll bring the book and you sign the book and it's great. But yeah, I'll be happy to talk to you about how to plan
That would be terrific. I'd appreciate
for
that.
readings. Yeah, because you want to do that also again, and I don't mean to take up the podcast time, but when COVID hit, I had all of these book tours, this whole book tour booked that I had to cancel. And what made it even worse is, let me see, I was promoting As Long as I Have Lips. So that was my fourth book. So in order to do this tour, I was going to bring the other 3 books with me. So I had to print copies of the first 3 books, plus an abundance of the fourth book that I was going to be promoting. And now I have all of these cases of books in my garage at some point. I'm not going to tour. Oh, great. What am I going to do? Well, fortunately, this thing that we're on right now, Zoom, came around out of nowhere during the beginning of COVID. So I
Correct.
was like, let's see, I was gonna do a reading of go to a bookstore. I got to travel to a bookstore, get a hotel, eat, go to the bookstore, do the reading, maybe have uh 30 people there, sell a percentage of those, give 40% to the bookstore. Now I could sit at home, I could do a reading and tell everybody about it. I have an email list that I've accumulated over the last decade of people who bought the books on. So I got that list. I got a Facebook page for my books. I got
Right.
my personal page that I promote the hell out of. Of course, I'm sure if I had TikTok or or whatever the hell it's called, or all of these other things, I could probably do more. But at the time, I just used that Facebook
And
and my email,
I have
and I
all
said,
three of that also.
I'm going to do a reading. So instead of being in Wichita at a bookstore with 30 people, I was across America with 60 people on a reading, and I would do separate books, separate readings. I had my website address on the screen, so if people wanted to buy the books, they bought it through my website or they bought it through Amazon. I didn't care,
Right.
and um, and it works. So you can do readings that way too, by self promotion, and getting people to be on Zoom,
I see.
and afterwards, hopefully, they'll order the book. You
Yeah,
know,
and I have a website. I have a third book in at the publishers right now, being set up for print. Uh, and basically, I've become a full-time writer.
do
So,
me, yeah, I know how that works. Okay, do me a favor. Try to only put out one a year.
oh
Otherwise,
yeah, yeah, no,
you make the rest of us look bad.
no.
Okay.
No, it's just what it is I write like it's a film. I learned I was in the film industry for 17 years, and I worked for NYU Film School, Columbia Film School, and Woody Allen, the Cousteau Society, Spike Lee, Woody. These people were people. We owned editing machines. My brother did, and I was a technician on the machine. So I would go in, and while I'm working on the machine, they're editing Malcolm X. And so I'm hearing their conversation, and it's how I learned to write. And
Right.
how to keep things interesting, keep it moving. No, you got to move on. It's time
That's
to,
right.
time,
Where in film, and Kelly, who's an actor, also, the secret in screenwriting was don't put it in the scene unless it absolutely moves the next scene forward. It
exactly.
has to be a part of the story. It shouldn't be superfluous. It has to have a meaning, and
That's
it
what my
has to
that's what my
move the
editor said
story.
to me. He says, "You have no fluff."
There you go. That's good. And that's good. But anyway, so okay, so the book is out. It's available on Amazon or
Get
through
it.
your website.
It's my name is the website, johntomasco.com.
Okay.
And that will take you directly to your Amazon page.
Got
And
it.
from there, you can see all the books, the previous book and this book.
Right.
There are commercials for both of them. Uh, Both of your websites are going to be up on that also. You guys have been gracious enough to help me very much, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, that was a really good little tutorial, John, explaining to people, the process if they write a book and self-publish and how to get it seen and heard.
Yeah,
Um,
there's many ways,
yeah,
especially for people like us. It's not as easy as you think to get an agent who will take you on and undertake all of the crap we need to do ourselves.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, please, folks out there, and John's other book, Maya.
Maya Portal.
Maya Portal.
The Maya Portal.
Yeah.
Great story. And we have another episode early on. Couldn't tell you what number it is. Do
I
you know?
can. It's number 11.
Ah, okay. About the Maya portal. Yeah.
There you
That was
go.
another. You're a good storyteller
Yeah,
and with
absolutely.
good ideas. This Dying to Win though, because it's autobiographical, I guess. It had me on the edge of my seat the whole time, and now people will want to know what happened.
Odds are, John, she'll read your book before she ever reads mine. Okay.
The
That's
guy who
I
the
hear
guy who
about them.
edits my
I've
book,
heard your readings and everything. We've talked so much about them. I know the stories.
the guy who edits my book, uh, he wrote a blurb for Dying to Win, and he said that it reminded him of In Cold Blood, Truman Capote's book,
Right,
In
right.
Blood, and Truman Capote called it a nonfiction novel. Usually, a novel is a fictional story. This is a nonfiction novel. He read an article in the newspaper about the Clutter family getting murdered,
Right.
and from that, he wrote the entire book.
From that, he got a career.
No kidding. It went on from there. You're absolutely right. But it's considered a nonfiction novel. And he said John Tomasko did the same thing, only in his book, he's not only the writer, he's also the main character, which made it more interesting.
Absolutely. Well,
You know what
thank
I'd
you.
like to see in that I think we've lost in our culture is everybody wants everything fast. And I, myself included. You don't want to sit down and read a book, but we need to start teaching people again that when you read a book, it's so much more colorful and interesting
Absolutely.
and vibrant and what you get out of it because it's stimulating your own imagination. It's so, such a good not only experience, but to expand your brain, your mind power.
Absolutely.
No
And we do,
director can beat your imagination.
yeah, yeah. You're always going to be, have a bigger imagination than anybody can put on screen. And I think we need to start getting back to reading books and maybe even reaching some younger people.
Oh, yeah,
With
definitely.
books, both
Yeah.
of you.
Oh, well, there you go too, John. Okay. I know this is going to sound crazy, especially since I live here in New Jersey, and especially since one of my books was a mob book. Do you know that the closest independent bookstore to Atlantic City is 32 miles away from Atlantic
Wow.
City?
Wow.
I have checked many times to do a reading down there just for that. And think about how great it would be to have a reading at a local bookstore in Atlantic City for your book. And there is none. There are a bunch of bookshops in the casinos, but
Right.
they're not bookstores. They sell more magazines and
I don't
tchotchkes.
think I don't think they're going to want a book to tell them how to rob a casino.
I disagree. I did very well in Las Vegas with my book.
Oh, you did. I can.
Yeah, but
And
that's another
I
story.
loved your book. That was
That,
The Boss was the first book I read by you, and I loved that book.
thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Thank you. Okay, let's wrap this up. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, John.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very,
Happy
very
holidays.
interesting story. I hope you
Yep.
do well with it. I wish you luck.
Thank
And
you,
we'll see
Kelly.
you
Thank you,
soon.
John. I appreciate you guys' help.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Bye
Take
bye.
care.
Bye. All views expressed in this video belong to Kelly Nicholson, John D'Amore, and guests. These discussions do not represent the opinions of any entity whatsoever with which they have been affiliated now or will be in the future. The opinions expressed are solely theirs, and since they are critically thinking human beings, these views are subject to change, subject to revision, and subject to rethinking at any time. These conversations are not meant to be taken as advice and are only for the purpose of entertainment. All statements may be based on hearsay and not necessarily valid proof of any claims in this video. It is not our intention to teach or advise on any topic. Unless otherwise noted, all photos are public domain. Thanks for watching A Slice of Life with Kelly and John.